Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about something that's absolutely essential to our happiness and sense of well-being, our relationships. Let's face it, relationships can be a roller coaster. We all crave those deep, meaningful connections, the kind that leave us feeling seen, heard, and totally supported. But in our busy digital world, it's easy to get caught up in surface-level interactions that leave us feeling isolated and a little empty. Have you ever wondered if your relationships are built on a real foundation of connection, or maybe something more like an emotional fantasy bond? The truth is, there's a big difference between these two types of relationships. Authentic connections are the real deal. They're nurturing, supportive, and allow us to be our true authentic selves. Fantasy bonds, on the other hand, are built on a shaky foundation of illusions, and they can actually hold us back from forming genuine emotional connections. That's why in this video, we're going to be diving deep into the world of connections. We'll be exploring the key differences between authentic connections and fantasy bonds. And we'll give you the tools you need to cultivate healthy, fulfilling relationships that will stand the test of time. So buckle up, because by the end of this video, you'll be ready to ditch the drama and unlock the power of authentic connections in your life. Let's get started.
Let's be honest, our world today is full of connections. But are they real connections? We're constantly bombarded with messages, notifications, and social media updates. We swipe through profiles, text back and forth, but sometimes it can feel like we're never truly connecting with anyone. We bounce from one interaction to the next, rarely taking the time to go deeper. This constant barrage of surface-level connections can leave us feeling lonely, even when we're surrounded by people. Studies even show that a lack of genuine connection can have a negative impact on our mental and emotional well-being. So, how can we tell the difference between a real connection and just a superficial one? And more importantly, how can we cultivate those deeper, more meaningful relationships that bring true fulfillment? The good news is, it's definitely possible. By understanding the differences between authentic connections and fantasy bonds, we can start building relationships that nourish our souls and make us feel truly seen and understood. Stay tuned, because that's exactly what we're going to explore next.
So we've talked about the prevalence of superficial connections in today's world, but what exactly makes an authentic connection different? Authentic connections are built on a foundation of several key characteristics. First, there's vulnerability. This doesn't mean oversharing everything on day one, but it does involve being open to sharing your true feelings and experiences. Second, there's trust. In authentic connections, you feel safe being yourself and expressing your thoughts and feelings openly. You know you can rely on this person to support you even when things get tough. And finally, there's mutual respect. Authentic connections are a two-way street, kind of like international diplomacy. You respect each other's opinions, boundaries, and perspectives, even when you disagree. When these qualities are present, something magical happens. These relationships become a safe space for growth, understanding, and true emotional intimacy. They're the kind of connections that leave you feeling supported, uplifted, and truly seen for who you are. But what about the other side of the coin? Let's explore the characteristics of fantasy bonds and how they can actually hinder genuine connection. Stay tuned.
We've talked about the warm glow of authentic connections, but what about those relationships that leave us feeling a little empty? The ones built on a foundation of illusion rather than genuine connection. Those, my friends, are what we call fantasy bonds. Fantasy bonds are often characterized by a focus on appearances and keeping up a facade. There might be a lot of bragging, one-sided conversations, or a constant need for external validation. Unlike authentic connections, fantasy bonds lack vulnerability. People might be hesitant to share true feelings or experiences for fear of shattering the illusion. There's also a sense of one-upmanship or competition. These relationships can leave us feeling drained and emotionally unfulfilled because they don't allow for true intimacy or growth. Fantasy bonds might feel good in the short term, but they ultimately hold us back from forming the deeper, more meaningful connections we all crave. The good news is, once you understand the difference between these two types of connections, you can start to identify them in your own life and make room for the real deal. Stick around, because in the next part of the video, we'll explore the importance of authentic connections and how you can cultivate them in your own life. It's time to ditch the drama and unlock the power of real connections.
Now that we've unpacked the differences between authentic connections and fantasy bonds, let's talk about why those real connections matter so much. Authentic connections aren't just a feel-good extra. They're essential for our long-term happiness and well-being. These relationships provide us with a sense of belonging and acceptance. We know we're loved and supported for who we truly are. They also foster growth. By sharing our vulnerabilities and experiences with trusted friends and loved ones, we gain new perspectives and learn from each other. And perhaps most importantly, authentic connections offer a safe space for emotional intimacy. We can truly be ourselves, express our deepest feeling, and know we won't be judged. Relying solely on fantasy bonds, on the other hand, can leave us feeling isolated and unfulfilled. These superficial connections can't provide the same level of support, understanding, and growth that authentic connections offer. So, if you're feeling disconnected or emotionally drained by your relationships, it might be time to reassess your connections and prioritize cultivating authentic ones. The good news is, with a little effort, anyone can build and nurture these meaningful bonds. Ready to learn how to cultivate authentic connections in your own life? Stick around, because in the next part of the video, we'll share some practical tips and strategies to help you build those deep, fulfilling relationships you deserve.
All right, so you're convinced that authentic connections are the way to go. But how do you actually cultivate them in your own life? Here are a few practical tips to get you started. First, focus on active listening. This means truly paying attention to what the other person is saying, both verbally and non-verbally. Put away your phone, make eye contact, and ask clarifying questions to show you're engaged. Second, practice open communication. Don't be afraid to share your thoughts and feelings honestly, even if they're vulnerable. The more open you are, the more likely the other person is to reciprocate. And finally, celebrate the small wins. Building authentic connections takes effort, so acknowledge and celebrate the progress. Every genuine conversation, every moment of vulnerability brings you closer to the kind of relationships you crave. Remember, cultivating authentic connections is an ongoing process. By incorporating these tips into your daily interactions, you'll be well on your way to building meaningful, fulfilling relationships that enrich your life in countless ways. Third, express vulnerability. Sharing your true feelings and experiences can be scary, but it's also essential for building intimacy. Start small by sharing something personal with a trusted friend or loved one. Fourth, build trust. This takes time, but be reliable, keep your promises, and be honest in your interactions. Remember, trust is a two-way street, so be sure to extend the same courtesy to the other person.
Alright, we've reached the end of this video, but hopefully, this is just the beginning of your journey towards building stronger, more authentic connections. We explored the key differences between authentic connections and fantasy bonds. We learned that authentic connections are built on vulnerability, trust, and respect, while fantasy bonds are based on illusions and can hinder genuine connection. Now it's your turn to reflect on your own relationships. Are they built on a foundation of authenticity, or are there some fantasy bonds lurking around? Consider who truly makes you feel seen, heard, and supported. Leave a comment below and share your thoughts on your own experiences with connections. What are some challenges you face in building authentic relationships? And don't forget to subscribe for more content on building healthy relationships and fostering personal growth. Remember, you deserve to have those deep, meaningful connections in your life. Thanks for watching.